Hi, my name is Mike Geddes and I'm the COO of The Third Half, an adventure soccer travel company with a social purpose. And I'm excited to talk to you about our company. I'd like to start by saying a little bit about soccer. I don't know if you play soccer, if you like soccer, but it's interesting, I think, to consider soccer as a socio-cultural phenomenon. Soccer is by some distance the planet's most popular sport. FIFA, which is the world soccer governing body, estimate there are about 3.5 billion soccer players and fans around the world. That's as many people as identify as Christians and Muslims combined. This makes soccer a very powerful and almost unique cultural force, and also creates a tremendous sense of opportunity and responsibility. And I'd like to start with a couple of quotes that illustrate that responsibility from people who know a thing or two about social justice. Sport has the power to change the world. It can unite people in a way that little else does, which is Nelson Mandela, the former president of South Africa and Nobel Prize winner. And soccer must play a socio-cultural role. We can use it to create peace, health, and social justice. That's Pope Francis. So really an illustration of the fact that sport can be an extremely powerful force for good in the world. And just to say a little bit about this particular photo, this young boy and young girl, they're not just having a good time and enjoying a game, they're actually part of a program which uses soccer to teach young boys and girls in Laos how to stay safe from landmines and unexploded bombs. In fact, that soccer ball is printed with a landmine safety message. So that's just a little bit about soccer and the type of work that I've been involved in. Now I'd like to talk a little bit about the problem that we're trying to address with The Third Half. This is the sort of neighborhood that I spent 10 years working in as a journalist and a non-profit executive, and it's also a pretty typical environment for the majority of young people aged 15 to 24 in the world today. Young people entering adolescence are at their most vulnerable from a variety of social issues: crime, sexual health, gender inequality, lack of education and employment, and so on. And if those young people are growing up in disadvantaged environments, these problems are even more acute. Now, there are many non-profit organizations working all over the world to try to address this, and over the last 20 years, there's been a rapid growth in the number of programs that have started to use sport, and soccer more than any other sport, as a vehicle for their programs. Soccer is a great tool for this because it's very popular, it's extremely cost-effective, doesn't require a lot of equipment, and most kids like to play it. So it's a great way to get them into social programs and keep them there. And for the last 10 years, I've been working with about 125 of these organizations around the world, all using soccer to tackle social issues like HIV/AIDS, refugee integration, and gender-based violence. But despite increasing evidence that supports the use of sport as a vehicle for social change, all these organizations face the same problem: a lack of predictable, sustainable funding. In fact, 90% of the NGOs we work with list that as their number one need. So now I'd like to talk a little bit about what I call our light bulb moment. In 2009, when I was living in South Africa, I got a call from a guy who ran a large and successful soccer travel company based in the United States. He was bringing a group of Americans to South Africa to play in a soccer tournament, and he asked if he could bring them to see the work we were doing to educate kids about HIV and AIDS. So we invited them to come to a soccer and public health centre that we built in Khayelitsha, a township just outside Cape Town. That's what you can see in this picture. And we arranged a game against a local team. It was very successful, and the Americans said it was the best thing they did on the trip, and they were especially inspired by the way they were able to connect with the locals through this feeling of being on a level playing field. We then decided to test whether a soccer tour could work as a fundraiser, and we ran several trips with an NGO in Lesotho, where we challenged people to raise money to come and play soccer in Africa, and we donated any profits to the local charity. Now, this was very successful and created very good margins, but the problem was it was hard to scale up because the mechanics of running a tourism company, flights, insurance, and marketing, were just way beyond what was possible for a non-profit, even if the margins were potentially very good. So in 2015, I reconnected with the guy through the soccer travel company and asked him if he thought there would be demand for a company that specialized in offering travel experiences that used soccer as a medium to allow people to have experiences they would never normally imagine. And he said from what he saw in his business, which usually involved kids spending a summer overseas in Europe, there was an increasing demand for experiences like this, ones that would give people new skills and new perspectives and where they felt like they were doing some good. So we managed to find a researcher to work with us and do some research into market trends in travel soccer and the market in the United States. And here's just a selection of some of the things that researcher found. The results seem to confirm to us there was a market for this type of product. I'll just highlight a few of these. Experiential travel is expected to be the fastest growing sector in travel for the next 20 years, according to the UN WTO. 71% of millennials want an experience that takes them outside of their comfort zone. Soccer is, even in the United States, the #2 sport among millennials after American football and growing much faster. So 90% of consumers say they would switch brands to one with a cause given the same price and quality. So in summary, we could see that millennials are driving trends in travel and tourism towards social responsibility. Millennials also like soccer and they also love travel. So we were asking, could we harness this to solve our problem? Could we use soccer as a common language to connect millennials to young people in the developing world and create value for both of them? And that's where we saw the opportunity for the third half. So this is the third half, and this is what we do. We designed 7 to 14-day adventure travel experiences that are themed around soccer for travelers aged 16 and older who want to learn about the world and make a difference. Every trip is built around a curriculum that focuses on global citizenship and leadership development and includes elements of culture, education, and sport. Our basic trip is based on 20 people with 1 free spot given for a chaperone teacher or just an incentive for sales. And it doesn't matter actually if you can play soccer or not. We just use soccer as a medium to create common ground between you and your host and to understand their country and culture. Every trip is hosted by a local non-profit organisation that's using soccer to tackle a social issue, and every trip guarantees a direct financial investment into that organisation, so the travellers can really see and feel the impact of their trip. And we're able to do this better than anyone else because we combine over 60 years of very specific experience in travel, soccer and social impact work, and our ability to do this is really unmatched by anyone else in the sector. So now I'd like to talk about our business model step by step, and we start by identifying potential host NGOs, and to do this we leverage our existing network of over 125 organisations in 75 countries that have all been vetted to a high standard for financial transparency and accountability. So let's take as an example an organisation which is working to advance public health in Lesotho. So what we do is we work with these NGOs to understand how they could create a tourism product based around their program by identifying various activities in different buckets. We turn these assets into a product which are designed for our target consumers, which we then take to market via direct marketing in our website and digital channels. We make a 30% profit margin on the landed costs like hotel rooms, bus hire, food, etc., and about 3% on flights. On average, every trip generates about $15,000 in profit for the company. The markets we're targeting in Phase 1 are high schools, colleges and soccer clubs, and in Phase 2 we'll offer bespoke products for brands and also an individual traveller product, and I'll talk more about our go-to-market strategy in a moment. We then execute and manage every aspect of the trip from the moment they get on the plane to the moment they arrive home. And once we've sold a trip, we invest a percentage of the revenue into the local non-profit organisation based on the number of days they're hosting the group. We supplement this by setting each group a fundraising challenge of $300 per person, which we help facilitate through a partnership with an online crowdfunding platform. And we invest the revenue share and the donations directly into the local NGO, which allows us to give the customers a very specific and tangible evaluation of their social impact. So let's look at how this works in practice. For our pilot program, we worked with a school called Pace Academy, which is a high school in Atlanta, Georgia. Pace Academy has something called the Isdale Center for Global Leadership, and they were interested in how soccer could give their students a different type of engagement with their destination and teach them about global citizenship. So we designed a 14-day experience for 23 high school students, that's 17 and 18 years old, to Lesotho in South Africa to learn about global development issues with a focus on health. They were hosted by a non-profit organisation called Kick for Life, which uses soccer as a medium to teach orphans and vulnerable children about HIV and AIDS. So the group tried the local cuisine, they learned the language, they tried dancing, they went pony trekking in the mountains, met the King of Lesotho, and of course they played a lot of soccer with local kids, even though many of them had never played before. And we also took them through a curriculum which focused on helping them understand the social issues affecting countries like Lesotho, which was led by young people from the local non-profit. And they got the chance to see the work Kick for Life was doing and get involved themselves. At the end of the trip, we were able to invest $25,000 into Kick for Life, which allowed them to deliver free HIV testing to 2,500 orphans and vulnerable children. The trip generated $21,000 in profit for the third half, and Pace Academy immediately signed up for another trip with us. So in 2017 we took a different set of students to Ireland to learn about the European refugee crisis. Here's a couple of quotes that show the customer satisfaction. This was a quote from an educator who says the way in which their kids were able to interact with the local population is better than anything they've ever seen. The participants said that this type of experience had really opened their eyes and helped them understand more about what they wanted to choose in terms of a college choice, and also talked about liking to be pushed out of their comfort zone. That's something that our market research showed was true of millennials in general. Millennials are looking for opportunities to be pushed outside of their comfort zone and have this type of experience. So let's talk a little bit now about the size of the target market that we're entering. The travel and tourism industry in general is the world's largest commercial service sector industry. Voluntourism, or experiential tourism as it's sometimes called, is worth about $2 billion a year currently in the USA. It's also the fastest growing segment within tourism. And as I said, the UNWTO predicts that experiential tourism will be the fastest growing tourism segment globally for the next 20 years. Sports tourism and youth sports travel is currently worth around $7 billion in the US per year and about $600 billion globally. And student travel, so that's people like Pace Academy, is currently worth around $173 billion globally. That's predicted to increase to $320 billion by 2020. So with soccer being the world's biggest sport, travel being the world's biggest industry, and social responsibility being one of the world's biggest consumer trends, we believe we're well positioned to get the market share we need to be successful. So now a little talk about how we're going to access those markets. In each case, we're looking to drive our customers to sign up via our website. That's where we drive sales. Our initial market penetration is going to be with sports tourists and student tourists. That's because our business already has existing market penetration through one of my business partners' companies, which allows us to already have a database of high schools, colleges, and soccer clubs that we'll reach out to. And then gradually, as we generate more and more content from our experiences, we'll use that to reach out to other tourists like voluntourists, experiential tourists, and that's going to be a key part of the development of our sales and marketing strategy. I've also included here a segment for bespoke trips. This is to represent the high level of interest we've already had from some brands and groups to design bespoke packages which would generate a higher margin for the company, around 40%. Now to talk a little bit about our team. I talked about our unique experience and qualifications before, and here's a little bit more detail on that. Jürgen Griesbeck is our chair. He's the founder and CEO of Street Football World, which is the global NGO I worked for the last 10 years. He's also an award-winning social entrepreneur and a fellow of Ashoka and Schwab. Herman Arguias is our CEO. He's the guy who brought the American team to South Africa way back in 2009, and he's the CEO of a soccer travel company based in Madrid with 15 years experience. I am the COO of the company. I've been working in soccer for 15 years, and specifically in soccer for social change for the last 10 as a non-profit executive, and I'm the CEO of Street Football World's US office. And finally, Billy Hartman is our CMO. He has 20 years experience as the CEO of a soccer travel company based in the United States, which has taken tens of thousands of people around the world to all 5 continents. So here's our growth plan. Here we are in 2017 when we've generated about $180,000 in revenue to date. And our goal is to get to $289,000 by the end of the year. With our current capacity, we expect we could increase that to $350,000 in 2018 and reach $1.2 million in revenue by 2020. But we believe that with investment, we can reach $570,000 in revenue next year, $1.4 million in revenue in 2019, and almost $6 million in revenue by 2020. Here's a look at how we would use that investment. As you can see, the greatest need is in staff, which is where we would invest in our sales and marketing team to get the product to the customer. With investment, we'll be able to break even by 2020, but it's important to note that we're creating social impact, the bottom line you can see on this table, from day one. This is our 5-year growth plan. As you can see, it's quite ambitious, but we believe it's realistic based on the opportunity. Due to a lack of competitors in our space and our expertise, we could move quickly and own this area of the market. This year we're planning to sell 4 trips, which is about what we can manage with current organizational capacity, but with investment in our marketing and sales team, we believe we can rapidly increase the number of trips we sell, and our goal is to reach $16 million in revenue by 2022, by which time we'll have invested over $7 million in social programs. So we think we have a product that works. We have the right team to execute our strategy. We've got expressed interest from some major brands like Adidas and Electronic Arts, and some celebrity soccer players like Juan Mata, who has a social media reach of 20 million. What we need is investment in our sales and marketing team in order to get the product to market. And if we can do this, our goal is to become profitable by 2020 and create a successful, sustainable business that's generating millions of dollars in social impact every year. Thanks very much for listening, and I look forward to speaking to you soon.